Hey you guys, I hope you've been having fun sewing your feltie dolls so far. We've done patterns and we've cut some pieces out. Well, now I want to show you how to do it from start to finish. So here we go. Okay guys, so this is a little guy that I want to make a feltie out of. So I've drawn him out. I know what I want him to look like, but I have to make a pattern out of him. So what I've done is I've taken my little guy and I've made these shapes. So my main pattern is going to be my little man, which I've put him here and I've traced him out, as you can see. I've also traced out what I want his shirt to look like. So I put him on my paper and I've traced out the pattern of the shirt. And I've even written on there that I want to cut one shirt. I want to cut one pair of pants. I want to cut one piece of hair. See, one hair. And then a pocket on his shirt. And even a nose and eyes. So, what I want to do is I'm going to set him aside and I'm going to grab my scissors. And you can see here where I put cut to. So cut to brown felt means that I want to cut 2 pieces for my little man out of brown felt. So here I go. I'm going to cut around here. Cut this out. And then once I cut this out, I'm going to place it on my brown felt and I'm going to cut the brown felt to match what I've made my pattern with. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can always perfect that with your felt. This is my first piece. So here we go. Got my little man. It's almost done. There we go. Okay. Now, I need to cut 2 of these. It says cut 2. So I have my brown felt. And I don't want to waste any felt. So what I want to do is place my little guy on the felt. And then I think I'm going to place him this way. And then fold my felt over. And see if it'll fit. It doesn't quite fit. So I'm going to have to do it the other way. Which is fine. So I'll place him on here up at the top. I'll fold my felt over. That way I can cut 2 at a time. Because this will make the front of my little man and the back. Okay. So now I need pins. So I'll go in to my little bag. I've got my little pin cushion. I'm going to pin my guy on here. And I don't need a ton of pins, just enough to make it stable. Got one. I'm going to put one up here on the arm, one on this arm. Oh. It's real stuff, guys. Takes time. One on the leg here, and then one on the leg here. Now, I've got really sharp scissors, so The sharper the scissors, the better. And lay that kind of out flat. Now you can cut your pieces out. So I cut around my pattern. And I can always straighten this out when I get finished and make sure that both pieces match exactly. When you double them up, there's more likely that you have an error. So you just kind of have to play it out. So I'm going to cut up in here. And then I may go up into that leg and then come back up here to the arm. Come back around and cut out this piece. I'm going to go ahead and cut this excess off because it's just in my way. I'll cut right around there. Now, I'll keep going around the edges to the corners here. And some of my patterns coming off, which is not a big deal. Doesn't have to be perfect. We'll cut right up around this way to the arm. You see I cut a little bit of that off. I'll cut on around here to the arm. And I cut towards the back of my scissors because those tend to be, that tends to be the sharpest point on the scissor. Go on around the other leg. And we're almost done. At least with the front and back of the feltie, which is pretty cool. And here we go. So now I'll just take my pins out. I usually put them back in my pin cushion, but anyway, okay, so now I have two pieces. If I have some straight ends like this, I'll just flip those off, make sure that both sides match, and I have a front and a back. So now I have excess, and I'm just going to set it aside. I'm going to leave that for someone else. Now, I need pants, and I want to cut one pair of pants because the one pair of pants is going to go on the front of my feltie. So here I go. Usually I would use a different pair of scissors to cut my paper, but I'm going to use the same pair. And I'm cutting out this pair of pants. This is going to go on my little man. And I'm going to do these in blue. I like blue jeans, so. Now, so I've got this pattern piece here, and I've got my blue felt. So I'm going to put it as close to the top of my felt as I can get it because someone else might want to use this other felt. So I'm just going to pin the top here. I'm going to pin this side, and then I'll pin, I'm going to pin this other side. So, once I have it pinned, I'm ready to cut. So, all I have to do is cut down that way. I'm going to cut along this side. I'm going to go ahead and cut just a little bit over here, just to make it easier for myself. Cut right up the top. Cut that little bit off, and then I'll cut right up the middle here where the legs meet at the top. And looky here, I have pants. Easy peasy. So when I go to sew this on, here's this. I can take my pants and put them on my little guy. Okay? And you see I have a little bit of some excess here. If that happens to you, this one might be a little bit more narrow. If it happens to you, you might need to cut your little guy down so that your pants meet your guy a little bit better. And that's fine. So what I would do in this case, I would take and cut the brown on up. Just make him a little skinnier. No biggie. Want to make him skinnier on this side. Just so my pants fit. Okay, so now I have pants that will fit my little guy. And if I have to trim a little bit more, that's no big deal. Okay, so here's my guy over here, and here's the pants that I've created. I had to trim him down a little bit, but the pants now go on. You can see his feet sticking out. But what I do is I take my straight pins and I just go ahead and pin those straight pins on so that I know where it's supposed to fit. Okay? Uh-oh. And now I'm ready to make my shirt. How's that? I've also have cut one shirt. I'm gonna make this shirt red. This pattern may not work out, so I may have to do what I did with the pants and cut them down. I don't know, but I'm gonna go ahead and cut this out like I made it. So here we go. Cut this around. Got the shirt sleeve. There's the shirt tail. And going up to another arm. Okay, so really, if I put this on my little man, it should look like this. But you can see that once I put it on this little guy, it's going to be a little bit big. But I'm going to go ahead and cut it like that with my fabric anyway. So I want my shirt to be red. So I'm going to get my red felt. Pull it over here. I'm going to put my red felt just as close to the edge as I can get it and pin it. What I'm really trying to do here is save as much felt as I can. Someone else might need to use it. Sorry about the background noise. We have lots of fun things going on at the house. So, okay. So, got that out there. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So, I'm cutting around there. I'm going to leave that straight line the way it goes. Cut this out here. Up that way. Cutting that out. Down. Gosh, these are hard. If anyone said this was easy, they are wrong. Okay, so here's my shirt. Let's see if it fits. Take the pins out. Try it on our little man. And see what we have. Okay, so it's pretty close. However, you can see where the shirt kind of comes up too far that way. I wonder if I turned it over. No, we'll just keep it like this, and we're just gonna pin it, and we're gonna trim it, okay? So my plan is to pin and trim. Pinning that on. Pinning that on. And you guys can see that my arms and my head is probably gonna end up being smaller. Whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm trimming my arms to be the same as my shirt. See how that worked? Then I'm going to trim my shirt on this side because I don't want really skinny arms. I'm going to trim my shirt to be the same as the body. See how that worked? On this side, I'm going to trim the shirt as well. So I'm going to trim down a little bit. Trim down a little bit over here. I kind of got to go around and up. Okay. And then on this side, I've got to trim a little bit of the arm off and a little bit of the shirt off to make it fit. So I'm going to trim a little bit of the shirt, and then I'm going to try to avoid that pin as well as possible and trim some of that arm off. Okay, so now I've got my shirt, got my little guy, and his arm is weird, so I want to not make it weird, so I may just take it and do that with it. So he has a big hand, a little hand, which doesn't really work for me, so what I'm decided to do is make this one a little smaller, okay? Which means that this piece that's on the back no longer matches. So I've got to make a match. So what I would do here is I would go ahead and put these two pieces together like I'd planned. Probably go ahead and pin them together. Get them as close as I can. The head is pretty even, so that's no biggie. The body's pretty even. Legs are going to be a little bit different, so but I'm going to try to get them just as close as I can in there and trim off that part here and this part here. Try to get your arms lined up just as much as you can. Pin those in.
I don't think I've seen one in the playoffs better.
These arms are going to be different, so you're going to want to pin those in. And guys, really, this is the redneck way to do this. I'm sorry, but it works. Okay, don't go over your pin. Go under your pin to trim. And then just trim this off to be even. because that's where you're gonna trim or sew those together. Okay. Gotta go back up this side.
Came back and took a 2-point lead.
Make sure those are relatively even. And you can trim those off. Trimming that. Trim that up to the crotch there. May need to trim that a little bit more. And that'll come off. If you look at the back, it's totally not even. So you're gonna wanna trim some along the back side, even if you have to trim some of the pants that you already did, okay? Trim up the side to the arms, because you know we trimmed quite a bit of the arms off. Trim those off. Head's about the same, but you want this to be pretty even because the stitches that you do around the sides, they're what holds the whole thing together, okay? So I have the hair. I've already drawn the pattern for it. I'm gonna cut it out. I may cut it a little bit bigger just because I know that I've had to trim stuff down and whatever, so I'm gonna go outside the lines a little bit. And cut that out. There. Gonna cut that off. Now, I want my hair to be, oh wait, it fell on the floor. Sorry. Got this light brown color. I'm gonna put it up close to the edge here. Need to pin that on and cut it out. So I'm just gonna use one pin. Pretty easy to cut that out. So I've kind of got to hold it because it wants to come undone. And when I trim this, I can actually go back when I'm done and clean it up, okay? So trimming it around where I think it needs to be. There we go. I'm gonna trim that off so I don't have to mess with that big old piece. And then do my little semicircle around that piece. Take that off, and I'm gonna look at it on my little guy and see how it looks. Okay, I think that works. So that'll be my hair. I'm gonna go ahead and pin it on just so I know how it looks. Okay. The next thing that I need to cut out are the eyes and the mouth and all that good stuff. I've already got a little pattern for that. I may actually glue these on. I haven't decided. But I've got a little bitty circle for the nose. I've got 2 little eyes. You guys are going to have buttons on your project. So what I would suggest is that maybe you find some tiny buttons and use those for the eyes. I don't know. But I'll go ahead and cut out my pattern for the nose, which is teeny tiny. I want to make it a little bit bigger. Gotta breathe, right? So Noses have to be big. Oh, there it is. Actually, to tell you the truth, I would probably not even cut out a pattern for the nose. What I would do is come over here and use some of my scrap fabric, and I would just do a little circle on my scrap and say, okay, there's the nose. Yeehaw. And there it is. Okay. And then for the eyes, if I wanted them to be white, which I don't have any white, but okay, say we want blue eyes. So I'm going to cut a little square out here. My blue. And I'm just going to cut 2 little circles for blue eyes. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you're going to use felt for eyes, which you don't have to. You can use buttons. But if I'm going to do it this way, this is what I would do. I would put my little eyes on there. They look kind of retarded, but that's okay. I can trim them, make them better. And then you can do your mouth. What I would actually do with this is I would use a back stitch, which is on your videos. You can look up back stitch videos and just do a stitch here for a mouth. And you can do your mouth crooked, you can do it straight, you can do it in a smile or frown, however you want to do that, okay? And there you go. Now we're going to show you how to put it together. So here we go. We have our back piece that I'm setting aside for later. And then we have our front piece. You can see that I've already cut out the pants from the pattern that I made and pinned those on. I pinned the red shirt that I cut out from the pattern on. And then I went ahead and just pinned on the hair. I don't have to do that. I'm going to set the eyes and the nose aside for now because I'm going to sew those on later. But what I want to show you now is how to thread your needle with the appropriate floss. This is called embroidery floss, okay? And it comes in little rolls like this. I've already gotten a piece of floss off, but I'm going to set that aside. I'll use that later. But I wanted to show you about this because it's important that you don't take these little pieces of paper off of this. If you do, you're just going to have a hot mess. So what you want to do is you want to pull out enough thread to go from about the tip of your finger to maybe your armpit. Okay? And then I'm going to cut it. May not have that much, but I'm not going to try to thread this into my needle because embroidery floss it's actually pretty thick, and it's made of 6 different strands, and I'm not sure that you're going to be able to see this in this video, but we'll try. But I'm going to pull out 3 strands from each side. I've got 2 here, you can see. I'm going to grab 1 more strand where I have 3 strands. And then all I have to do is just pull it apart. Kind of have to work with it a little bit. It doesn't like to come apart sometimes. So I just kind of straighten it out. It wants to get tangled. Keep pulling. Keep unraveling. Shorter pieces are really easier to work with, but if you use a shorter piece, then you're going to have to do this a lot more times. So I like to do it once for what I need. Okay, so once I have it unraveled, I have my 3 strands here. I'm just going to set my other three strands aside, and then now I have to thread my needle. You can see that my embroidery needle has a bigger eye than what a regular needle would have. So I like to kind of lick it to make it where it'll go through there a little bit easier. Kind of put it up close and then feed it through. And this isn't easy, I'll just be honest. Sometimes you have to cut it, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut it so it'll be a little bit more straight, won't have so many loose fibers. And I'm not wearing my glasses, so it's a little harder. Okay, hopefully I got it through there that time. Yes, I did. So make sure all three strands go through. Okay, so you know when I showed you how to sew in the beginning and how to do your stitches, I showed you to pull the threads even at the end. Well, when you're going to sew these felties, you don't want to do that. You want to leave this little tail. This just gives you extra thread. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tie a knot in one of the strands. See, I have the other strand up here that's loose. And then I'm going to tie the knot. And remember, take it between your index finger and your thumb, wrap it around your index finger and make that little X. Roll it, and then pull. That gives you a nice sizable knot to work with. Okay, so now you're ready to sew. I've actually already started sewing this. You can see on the neckline, I've done a blanket stitch, and you can find that in one of my other videos. But on the arms, I've just done what's called a whip stitch. You're only going to be required to do the whip stitch. So that's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to go ahead and take these little pants off here, and we'll sew those on later. And we're going to use blue thread when we sew the pants on so that they'll match. Okay, so I start from the back, and I'm just going to come right up as close to the red as I can. I want to hide my knot, of course, behind there. And I'm pulling that up, and I'm just going to go back down a little bit, maybe an 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch. And I'm not going to pull it real tight because I don't want it to look bunched up. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit down here from where I first started, pull up, and then I'm going to try to go back through at about this in about the same increment. You see how I've done that? And I'm going to go all the way across. And I'm only going to do the inside. I'm not going to mess with this outside yet because that's going to be sewn up at the end when I sew the back up. So only what is in on the inside of my teddy bear. Okay? So I'm just going in, up and down here. Go back up, go back down. Sometimes you can make your stitches where they're diagonal, sometimes you can make them straight, but it really doesn't take that long when you get really good at it. The key is just making sure that your stitches are the same length apart, the same width. If you mess up, you can always pull that out and rethread and start over. But I'm going to go all the way to the end, and I'm going to show you how to tie this off. Go over a little bit more. And get that down. And you're going to catch yourself wanting to get impatient and go over a little further and further. Don't let yourself do that, because you're going to end up with a really crummy look if you do that. It needs to be even, and it needs to look clean, okay? Through. Just got a couple, 3 more stitches, and then I can tie this off in the back. You always want to tie your thread off in the back, so those that are looking at your product won't see those unfinished threads. Okay, oops, got that caught. Gotta be careful of that too. Okay, one more stitch, and then I'll show you how to tie it off. Pull that down. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over like this, and I'm going to see where my thread is coming out here. I'm just going to catch a little bit of my brown with my needle. Make sure it doesn't get caught around the leg, or you're going to have a mess. Pull it until you see that little loop. Everybody see that little loop? Now you're going to put your needle back through the loop. That leg is totally getting away. And you're going to pull it just slightly. I do it a couple of times. What it does is it ties a knot, and it makes sure that those threads don't come loose. Okay? Definitely don't want your little bear to come apart. There you go. Now I can just snip that off. And there you go. My shirt's sewn on. How about that?